In 1994, South Africa was a collapsing structure. Global observers expected a bloodbath that would destabilize the entire African continent for decades. Heavily armed right-wing paramilitaries and radical factions were actively mobilizing for a racial civil war. Historical precedent suggested that a violent transition was no longer just a possibility, but a certainty. The assassination of anti-apartheid leader Chris Hani acted as the ultimate stress test. It pushed the nation to the edge of total anarchy. The standard historical response to this kind of trigger is clear. The oppressed majority rightfully demands violent retribution against their former oppressors. However, this retribution trap ensures that a war of revenge leads only to mutual destruction. As the diagram shows, the violence triggers a chain reaction that results in a total collapse of the country's economic engine. Because traditional warfare guaranteed the destruction of the nation, Mandela required a radically unconventional weapon to disarm the country. Mandela operated with the precision of a military strategist, reframing forgiveness from a moral ideal into a pragmatic tool for national survival. He utilized weaponized forgiveness to outflank his opposition and break the cycle of violence without firing a single shot. He stood before hostile white crowds specifically to acknowledge their fears. By validating their anxieties rather than threatening their existence, he made it difficult for them to justify an armed uprising. This strategy provoked intense cognitive dissonance. Confronted with empathy instead of the expected revenge, heavily armed insurgents began to lower their guard. While making these public overtures, Mandela managed a hidden internal battle to dismantle the third force, rogue intelligence agencies intent on sabotaging the democratic transition. By neutralizing the fear that fueled recruitment, Mandela's strategy stripped the hardline leadership of the popular base they needed to mobilize for war. The 1995 Rugby World Cup served as a high-stakes psychological operation. Mandela wore the Springbok jersey, a symbol previously synonymous with apartheid, to co-opt the right wing's cultural identity. This public spectacle forged a shared national identity at a moment when the country was most divided. By capturing the narrative of national unity through sport, Mandela left the remaining armed insurgents isolated and without the popular support needed to sustain a revolution. To move past the individual, Mandela engineered the Truth and Reconciliation Commission as a formal institutional alternative to a standard post-war tribunal. The commission was built on a pragmatic trade-off. It sacrificed immediate retributive justice to ensure long-term economic and systemic stability. The new constitution acted as a load-bearing pillar, balancing the protection of minority rights against the empowerment of the oppressed majority. This legal architecture absorbed the weight of the social transition, keeping the economic structure from collapsing. This institutional scaffolding successfully averted a civil war and established a fragile but enduring peace across the country. Today, we are seeing a rising threat of civil unrest and total systemic collapse across the global political landscape. Most modern conflicts currently operate on the logic of retribution over restoration. Mandela's miracle provides a blueprint for de-escalating modern ethnic and political conflicts. If we are to avoid our own retribution traps, we must reconsider the calculated use of forgiveness as a viable tool for global stability.